Hey guys, thanks for checking out this video today. The topic of my short video today is psychology, and I've got a couple of quick book recommendations for you guys, and I want to share a couple of simple but key insights about human nature that are really worth considering if you don't already know this stuff. So the first book I wanted to recommend quickly is The Righteous Mind, and this is about moral psychology. And it's by Jonathan Haidt, who is pretty well known as far as academics go. And he's also associated with a lot of political stuff, and I don't want to get into politics per se. I have other books by him on my shelf too, but I'm not going to talk about them. This is the one that I think is kind of important, that's worth reading if you're going to take the time to read it. Although I know most people are busy, I don't think most people are going to actually take the time to read this. So what I'd also recommend is just checking him out on YouTube, because his main idea that he's famous for is moral foundations theory, which I think is you can watch like a 20-minute video, like a TED Talk on YouTube, and understand it well. And there's also criticisms of his work that I think are worth listening to on YouTube. However, I just think that there's some very basic things that he points out. And I like books, when it comes to psychology, like books that are by actual academics that publish research, because as opposed to like, this isn't a philosophy book about morality, it's a psychology book about morality, specifically moral psychology, and how that directly affects politics. The subtitle of the book is Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion, and I think it's important to think about what I'm going to tell you so that you can use it both to think about how it applies to yourself and how you can size up other people when you're talking to them. So without getting into the more controversial stuff later on, what he shows and what I find interesting, but like you can go on YouTube and you can watch interviews being conducted. The way a lot of this type of research is conducted is just by statistical analysis of huge amounts of questionnaires that they send out. So they're like just doing surveys of people, like tens of thousands, and then analyzing the data and looking for correlations and stuff like that. And so the basic key takeaway is this for this book: human morality is, for most people, is completely instinctual. It's not rational. Only more high IQ individuals, or however you want to phrase it, brighter people, smarter people, are able to kind of override their own instincts. And so what I've noticed by observing a lot of footage of people being interviewed, but also when I'm talking to a lot of people on certain issues, is I start to talk to them about morality, and their views on certain things are completely instinctual. They can't actually rationalize them. And so this leads into this idea of moral foundations theory, and why liberals and conservatives, for example, are actually in a sense hardwired differently. And it's worth considering, not to take a stand on I don't want to take a stand here on politics, but I think it's very useful to understand people if you can sort of profile them and understand how their mind works, right? And so that's why this is sort of relevant. But it's also, it's commentary for libertarians and for a lot of people, because I myself am a very libertarian-minded kind of guy when it comes to value systems. Like freedom in general, freedom of thought expression, all these things. But what I can appreciate is that for most human beings, the way they view the world and their views on morality are completely instinctual. So good examples of this, for more concrete examples, are like the way people tend to view homosexuality, or the way they view like abortion and stuff. A lot of people, if you press them hard enough on why they're really against those things, for example, will often get to a point, and I've done this with people, like when I'm trying to get to know somebody, I'll often use the Socratic method, sort of subtly, and just ask them a lot of questions, kind of figure out how they think. And a lot of people, if they're really against something like abortion, will say, I don't know why, ultimately, it's just how I feel. And I respect people when they say that, because they are admitting something that, like, at a certain point, like they don't know how to, there is no actual rationalization necessarily for their belief. It's an instinct. And a lot of these instincts are, they're inherited. They're not decisions that these people are making. That's the other issue with, different types of minds. Some people are brighter than others. If you're watching this and you're interested in the content I make, I'm assuming you're like we're in the same kind of tribe, and we're a little bit brighter. So, I empathize with you. You have to deal with people that can't, that are not at the level where they can realize that a lot of their own thoughts are just instincts, right? So I also recommend you guys to spend a lot of time meditating if you're interested in self-development, and just self-reflecting. Like, introspecting and asking yourself, like, if you're really, if you're a conservative, for example, or even if you're very progressive or something, but you're against certain things, like really think about, like, why am I so against this? This relates to disgust mechanisms, because the things that we find disgusting, that's also like that's sort of those are instincts that have been created by evolution. So certain things that our society will deem immoral, like say being homophobic, are not necessarily in and of themselves immoral, because they're instincts that people have inherited through evolution. However, I do think it's morally imperative to sort of understand ourselves, to overcome our limitations, and just because we have inherited instincts doesn't make them objectively true. So that's the thing that I'm trying to really hit home with that. So if you're interested in kind of comprehending more about that, I'm recommending Jonathan Haidt's The Righteous Mind, or just at least looking into him on YouTube. Okay. Now, second book that sort of ties in with that is, and this one is shorter read and more interesting. I think more people are much more likely to actually buy and read this one. It's The Wisdom of Psychopaths by Kevin Dutton, who, again, another academic based on a lot of research that he's done. He himself has admitted he has psychopathic traits. He talks a lot about his father, who's definitely a psychopath. And I want people to try to learn about this and understand this too, because I've dealt with a lot of people that have personality disorders, and there's a lot of malicious people in the world, but narcissists, malignant narcissists, and all kinds of stuff going on. But psychopathy is a particularly dangerous thing. I have concerns about it because it can lead to things like sadism and stuff. And the thing with psychopathy, though, is that it's, unlike narcissism, it's genetic. It's not a product of environment so much. I mean, all these things are a bit of a stew of all these factors. But with psychopathy, the point is, these people are born the way they are. They have, and this is the other thing, why this concerns me, and why I'd like to foster larger dialogue around this. Understanding that they're about 1% of the population, they're very real, and that because they don't have the kind of ethical constraints that people like myself have, it works in their advantage, and they end up in these positions of power in institutions that they're naturally drawn to. And so I want people to start to comprehend this and internalize this understanding that big corporations, government, and religious institutions are essentially run by psychopaths. And that's not me being facetious or rhetorical. It's you have to start trying to explain to you how society and human nature works, because nature probably, we're speculating a little bit here, but they're probably a reason why our tribes were tribal creatures, right? Why we have these people in our group, because they're also, most of them are non-violent, okay, and they're actually harnessed properly. Their attributes are really good, beneficial to the tribe. That's the thing. If they're not harnessed properly, they can become horrible. Most of these people are not Freddy Krueger running around being serial killers, although they certainly have the capacity for that. They're actually doing things like being surgeons, and performing other roles. One of the 5 main careers we're drawn to is being prison guards, but that's the only kind of lower class one. The other ones are lawyers, CEOs, surgeons, and there's another one, clergy. So, and Dutton has also interviewed members of the Catholic Church and priests and stuff who are open psychopaths, who admit they don't believe any of their religion, but they explain why they're drawn to it. And people that know me know I'm very, very, very skeptical of organized religion, and I also, because I think it's largely predatory and manipulative, even though I'm not anti-spiritual at all. But I want people to start to be less naive about the way the world really is, because it's statistically impossible for you not to be preyed upon by a psychopath in your lifetime. You will, man or woman. I used to think that psychopaths were like wolves that just preyed on naive or vulnerable females, but no, there's different types of psychopaths, and they'll prey on everybody. They don't have empathy. And they have a lot of attributes that I envy, honestly, that make them strong. But they are also a concern, and too many of them. Also, in the past, also I should mention, in times of tribal warfare, you better hope you have some of these guys on your team, especially if the other team has some. But we don't live in those conditions that we used to anymore, so we have to figure out what to do about the fact that these people exist, because they have a very, very malignant, harmful impact on society, from running pharma companies and stuff like that, right? So these are bad stuff. So those are the 2 book recommendations I have today in this short video. I want to keep it under 10 minutes, so please check out the work of Jonathan Haidt when it comes to moral foundations theory, and Dutton's work on the wisdom of psychopaths. So once again, thanks for checking out this video. I appreciate it, and feel free to hit the like button. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.